Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello and welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Aaron Halevi. In today's show, Rabbi Abraham Trugman explains the philosophy and spiritual wisdom behind the Shema. Herbalist Shiri Havkin explores natural herbs as a source of healing, and Shoshanna Harrari talks about her new book, The 7 Healing Fruits of Israel. For the past 35 years, Rabbi Abraham Trugman has worked in the field of Jewish education. Based on his teachings, he has written numerous books, the latest being Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Perhaps the most famous of all Jewish sayings, the Shema is a cry from the heart, a meditation of the mind, and a deliberate declaration of identity. Over the next few weeks, Rabbi Trugman will explain the rich array of philosophical and spiritual wisdom encoded within the words of the Shema.
Maybe one of the most important verses in the entire Torah, the Bible, is Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Many people who know very, very little of the Bible have at least heard this idea. And of course, this goes back to our father, Abraham, where his mission in the world was to teach the world that there was one God. 4,000 years later, that is still the mission of the Jewish people. Not only to believe in one God, and not only to teach that there's one God, but to integrate it deeply in our own lives, that it's not just a philosophy, it's a living reality. That not just that God is one, but ultimately everything is one. The Shema is recited twice a day, in the morning and the evening. According to the rabbis, added 2 more Shemas. So we actually, observant Orthodox Jews actually say Shema 4 times a day. But what I found from my own experience is that when we recite the Shema in our prayers, to keep up with the congregation, we have around 7 seconds to actually say the Shema. And then there are 3, we'll call them paragraphs or passages that we say along with it, which take another few minutes. And many, many people get overwhelmed and actually don't know what to be thinking about when they say the Shema. So I've just written a book called Shema Yisrael, 200 Meditations on Judaism's Cardinal Principle of Faith. And in it I have 200 short ideas to be thinking about when saying the Shema. The verse of Shema ends with Hashem Echad, God is one. We learned that there was a paradox involved here with duality, 2 different names of God, but the Shema is asserting that ultimately not only is God one, but all of existence, all of reality is connected and is one. But we have another paradox here, and this we can only see through Jewish numerology. Hashem, the 4 letters of this name of God, equals 26, and the word Echad equals 13. 13 is exactly 1/2 of 26. What does it mean that the name of God is double the word Echad? So this is a concept explained by a great Kabbalist around 800 years ago. His name was Rabbi Abraham Abulafia, and he called it Shalem V'Chetzi, a whole and a half. And he showed through extensive analysis that many, many phrases, important phrases in the Torah have the same equation of a whole and a half. But what does that mean to us on a personal level? So this is connected to one of the mitzvahs in the Torah, that we're told that we don't do a census by counting people. How did they do it? Everyone brought a half a shekel. Shekel was a denomination of a coin. And then they would count the coins, and then they would know how many people there are. But everyone asked, why a half a shekel? Why not a whole shekel? And so the teaching given over is that in relationship to God, we are all a half. God is the whole of which we are a part of. We're a half. Yet, every person is an individual to themselves, meaning every person is both a whole and a half. So there's a very, very deep teaching here about the relationship of being whole and a part. But what makes a person feel not just like a half is being part of something greater. And we can even relate to this to all of humanity, because all of humanity comes from Adam. And ultimately, when the Mashiach comes, the Messiah comes, all of our prophets said humanity will come together again, and all the divisions and all the hatred and all of the wars will cease. And so every person can relate to this teaching of a whole and a half.
Welcome back. Brewing remedies for itches, aches, scratches, and acting as village doctors, the Havkin family have traced the roots of this age-old tradition back 200 years to the family in Mogilev, Belarus. Learning from her mother, Herbalist Shiri Havkin continued with the blending and mixing of natural herbs, both as a source of healing as well as skincare products.
Herbalism is with us for thousands of years. I think from the beginning of men. They help us balance the body, because when you take a medicine, let's say the conventional medicine, it can work, of course, and it helps, but it also disrupts the balance of your body from healing itself. The herbs, what I think, help you heal yourself in a very mild, it's a mild help that doesn't disturb the original order of your body. In Judaism, we have the Rambam, which is our smartest leader doctor. I think his main, let's say the main root of his work, his teachings, always tell us to again, be a whole, which means you have to eat right. This is very important in the Rambam's teachings, what you eat, how you eat, when do you eat. He always said not to eat much in the evening, not to eat and drink together, not to eat when you're angry, things like this. The food is a very major leading point in the Rambam's teachings. And the herbs, again, are a supporting element. So he would talk about herbs that will stimulate your blood or fight inflammations. And I learned a lot from his books. My mother used to learn a lot from his books. We all are very proud and privileged to have the Rambam in our lives. My mother's grandfather was also a herbalist and a very special naturalist, we used to call it, which means that he was not only vegan, but he used to also make his own clothes, his family also. They used to sew their own clothes, be totally together in life with nature, not abusing it in any way. Now there is, in Israel anyways, a strong return to this kind of legacy. And my mother grew up on the, as a second generation. I mean, her parents were not like this. So she used to say that for her, a pot with plants was an ashtray. It's not so nice, but that was her house, and her grandparents' place was a place of herbs and herbalism and the work that I do now. So it does run in the family. My main work is a herbalist. I work with herbs, spices, natural cosmetics made at home. Most of the things made by my mom's recipes. She was a singer and left us her legacy, which is a beautiful line of products, all 100% natural. I treat my patients or the people that are friends as a whole. Every person is a world of his own, as we know. I don't even call things like this a disease. It's like a disorder, a movement of the natural balance of your body. When something is going wrong, just really listen and start projecting your attention to this place that is asking for attention. There is another word that I like in English that is called responsibility, because responsibility is the ability to respond. And that's what actually problems in the body are asking for. Respond to me. You have a headache, you have a migraine. Why? Maybe you work too hard, maybe you run too much, maybe you're afraid, you worry too much. This can be attended to in different ways than taking a pill. And it's actually a cry, a call of your body, of your soul inside the body for attention and responsibility. So this is like the bottom line, actually. So you see, it's not like herbs, ointments, medicines. It's something much, in my opinion, much more deep and responsible to look for in each one of us. In order to really heal, you have to heal it from inside, heal yourself, heal your mind, heal your body through your mind. Every herb, actually, when you touch it with your hands, you will smell the strong scent, and this is the essential oil that is captured inside the herb. Like if you take sage, for example, which is more grayish, and you touch it with your hand, you will get a very strong, bitter smell. And actually the gray ones, like thyme, eucalyptus, they are very strong with an antiseptic oil inside them. So it's good for germs and inflammations and all kinds of bacteria and fungus. So when you understand the logic of the colors and the smells, you know to go to the right ones. So there's a logic in the colors, in the shapes, in the smells of the herbs. For me, it's really the source of everything, and I haven't been always like this. I was born and raised in Tel Aviv, studied acting and singing, music is a very large part of my life. But when my mom died at 95, I came here to Rosh Pina and followed her book, which she wrote about the herbs and the spices and the medicines, the natural medicines. And it's like, for me, it was actually a way to know my mother. You can say that the earth represents that everything grows from it and everything starts from it, and also a way to reconnect to my mother, which was already gone, and left me in her books recipes and stories and things that you would love to hear from your mom. Maybe not when she was alive did I hear many of these stories, or a recipe of a cake that I really like, and suddenly I have it written in a book. I notice it's really a big present. So the earth is like this, it's everything for me. Actually, remedies that are made in a way a bit similar, at least for people that want to learn about it for the first time. So I say it, although it's not totally direct, but it reminds a bit of the way that homeopathic remedies are made, because it's not actually a substance, it's a frequencies medicine, which means that if you take it to the lab, maybe you will not find specifically material, but if you try it on 100 people, they will tell you exactly what it does to them. So it does work and can be proven, and of course it's been working for over 80, 90 years, but it's not proven in the usual laboratory ways that we know. Still, and this is something that I think is a good teacher for us being humble, we don't know everything. We don't see or hear everything, and it doesn't mean that what we don't see or hear doesn't exist. So it's also a good lesson to listen to your very inner, subtle frequencies. How you feel when somebody comes to you. Do you feel open to them? Do they close you up? This is all happening all the time, but we don't listen to it. So I'm saying, just listen. And when you hear things, when you listen, you're actually here. You're actually in the present. And this is the biggest present. I have even been religious for 20-something years in my life. Religious meaning Shabbat keeping and praying and Tehillim and very dedicated. And God didn't leave my life. I am still a very believing human being. I think I'm not religious. I'm more spiritually connected to God, which I actually believe is inside, and not like also Louis Hess says, like this old gray bearded man going like this. It's, yes, like in the most kitsch way to say, it's for me, God is love. And love is the force that sticks everything together, builds everything, heals everything. I try to be connected to this force as much as possible. I try to choose for love, good, positive, herbs, whatever it will be, music, because this is your life. It's one time that you live it, and why contaminate it? Just choose for this. So when there is fear, it's not love. Just pour the love onto it, and you will see how it will push away the fear. I've been through a lot of changes in this business, and if I can look at it now that I'm looking back at all, let's say, the more challenging times and when things seem like they will never work, yes, just take a deep breath and believe everything is going in order. This is very helpful now to see that now that that I did reach somewhere that I was aiming to, and when the struggle and when things were going so difficult, it seemed like it will never happen, that I was on the right path. So, yes, it doesn't matter how lost you feel that you are and how dark everything is, just say, everything is working out for my highest good. And it is. It is. It just believe and trust, give it time. It is.
The 7 Healing Fruits of Israel is a new book written by nutritionist Shoshanna Harrari. In a world full of preservatives and genetically engineered produce, she believes that these 7 foods given by Hashem, or God, should be the cornerstones of our lives, as each of them contains many important vitamins that are essential to our well-being. Shoshanna maintains that if we were to resort to a diet of only these 7 fruits, we would be healthier in both body and spirit.
The 7 Healing Fruits of Israel came out of a kind of research. I used to do a lot of Rosh Chodesh gatherings, and every month we would talk about the aspects of that month. And when we came to the month of Shvat, usually in February, January, February, there's a holiday called Tu B'Shvat. And at Tu B'Shvat, we give honor and do a whole Seder around these specific 7 fruits. And everybody knows about it, but they don't really understand what's so special about them. So I did research for 10 or 15 years, really, about each one of the fruits and what they do for us. And they're very interesting. Besides that, they're all delicious. They actually all do wonderful medicinal things for us. And the book, it's made up of actual facts, of botanical facts. For example, like what is an olive tree and how many grow and those kind of facts. There's all the spiritual things from the Bible, from the Talmud, from the Midrashim, many stories about what these plants do. And then I have lots of recipes of what to do with them, how to take this beautiful fruit and make it tasty so that your family will want to eat them. So this is my book. And I'm reading to you from the passage in the Bible that, for me at least, this is how the whole thing got started for me. So it's from Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 7 and 8, and it says, "For Hashem your God is bringing you to a good land, a land with streams of waters, of springs and underground water coming forth in valley and mountains, a land of wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey." So between Pesach and Shavuot, the weather in Israel can be very unstable because we're going from winter into spring, into summer. And sometimes it can be very, very hot and the winds are blowing, the east wind's blowing, and it's just, everything just dries right up. Sometimes it can rain, sometimes it's cold. Even once in a while, it can even snow, like crazy things. So you never know. But during that same time, most of the fruit trees, like the pomegranate and the grapes and other fruits like that, the figs, are all beginning, they're at their most fragile stage. So if there's a super hot wind and it just blows all the flowers, the blossoms off the trees, then we don't get that fruit that year. So everything depends on this very fragile time, and it seems like our attitude towards each other actually creates the environment for this climate change, a mini climate change within our country. When we're good to each other, then we get a beautiful time in these 6 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot. And as that happens, then the fruit ripens and we get the blessing of these particular 7 fruits. They're kind of our superfoods, the superfoods of Israel. It's really important also that when looking for these particular fruits, no matter where anyone lives, that they should try to get the ones with seeds in them. It's really important to have seeded fruits. Like, it seems to us, oh, it's so easy to get like seedless grapes and seedless oranges and seedless watermelons, but it's a weak plant. And in the weakness of the plant, it's not going to give us strength either. So those seeds are very important. And every now and then, of course, you're going to chew a few of them and get the goodness that's in there. And there's a special medicine that's in the seeds of the plant too. And in the case of the pomegranate, the fruit is all seeds. So the seeds are very, very important. And with the pomegranate, they say that there's 613 seeds in the pomegranate connecting to our mitzvot. So when we eat a pomegranate, we're full of the good mitzvot that are in the Torah. So these particular 7 fruits are fruits that grow here. They're indigenous to Israel, and they don't really need our care. Like, of course, if you're a good farmer and you water your plants and you prune them, they're going to give better fruit. But even without us, they're able to sprout, to grow, to find their water, to find their food, and to give us this particular fruits. So it's special because they're native to Israel. And even though there are some of them that grow in other countries, there's nothing like the fruits when they grow here, because there's something in the soil of Israel itself that can give nourishment to a plant or a tree like no other place on earth. Even the most beautiful, pristine places, the soil of Israel has something special about it. And so when it nourishes these 7 fruits, then we get the highest potential of what this plant and the fruit can give us.
Well, that's all we have for this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we would love to hear from you, so please send us a message on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Aaron Halevi, and the rest of the Simcha team, have a great week ahead.